Sehr geehrte Frau Ministerpräsidentin Szydło,
Prime Minister, Minister President of the State of Brandenburg, Excellencies, members of the Polish delegation, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to cordially welcome you all on behalf of the Körber Foundation. Madam Prime Minister, this is your first official visit to Germany. I'm extraordinarily pleased that we can contribute to shaping this part of your visit. Ladies and gentlemen, Europe is currently facing huge challenges. In the first half of the year 2015, everything circulated around the precarious financial condition of Greece and the conflict in eastern Ukraine. In the late summer, though, the refugee issue as well as the war in Syria came to the foreground. And let us not forget the attacks of Paris that made us all dramatically aware of the fact that the terror of the Islamic State will not stop at the borders of Europe. All these challenges put the solidarity of the European Union to a hard test. Again and again, also against the backdrop of the debate that is currently taking place in Great Britain, the question about the future of the European Union arises. How can Europe manage to deal with these challenges? How can we handle these centrifugal forces that pull within and at the EU? Do we actually need more Europe? Or do we rather need less Europe? Or maybe we need a different Europe? In these turbulent times, you, Madam Prime Minister, November 16th, took up your office. Since then, the waves in the relations between the European Union and Poland have become higher. By the turn of the year, the government, under your leadership, passed a reform of the Constitutional Tribunal and the reform of the public media. The reforms met in Brussels and other EU member states with criticism. And in the middle of January, the EU Commission launched proceedings in order to preserve the state under the rule of law in Poland. All this coincides with a nice anniversary, the 25th anniversary of the German-Polish Treaty of Good Neighborship. Despite all the opinion differences, let's not lose sight of one thing. In the last 25 years, it was not only possible to move forward the process of reconciliation between our countries and to deepen further our relations. In 1991, a foundation stone was also laid for an unprecedented exchange of civil societies that stretched over the rivers of Oder and Neisse. Today, the Poles and the Germans are closer to each other than they have ever been. I would even say our countries are not only neighbors, but they're connected by a friendship, and this is a precious good. But this friendship is not something we should be taking for granted on the backdrop of our history, but also of the backdrop of current challenges that we're facing right now. This friendship needs to be founded again and again. Like with every friendship, also this one is something we have to constantly be working on. It is a value in which we have to invest again and again. The reconciliation with Poland was very close to Richard von Weizsäcker's heart, who was the former president of the Federal Republic of Germany and also for many years the president of our Bergdorf Roundtable. He named the EU enlargement toward the East in 2004 as one of the happiest days in German history. Under his leadership, the Roundtable had its meeting in no other EU member state more frequently than in Poland. At our next Bergdorf Roundtable, Europe at the Crossroad, Chances and Challenges of the Refugee Crisis, which will take place in mid-March, the Polish Minister for European Affairs, Mr. Konrad Szymański, will participate at this roundtable. He's also present here today. Minister, at this point, also warm welcome to you. And in the summer, our Munich Young Leaders, a joint project of the Körber Foundation and the Munich Security Conference on the occasion of the Nato Summit, are going to meet in Warsaw for an alumni reunion. Also in our history network, EU Story, Poland occupies a special place. The network brings together civil society organizations in 25 European countries which carry out national competitions in history. The aim is to encourage young Europeans to engage with current central questions concerning the European history together. Poland was, together with Germany, a founding member of the EU Story Network. Today, the Polish competition counts to the most important and most successful ones within the EU Story Network. So far, 20 editions of the competition were announced. About 13,000 students submitted about 8,000 entries concerning local history and family histories. Madam Prime Minister, we are extremely pleased that we can participate in a dialogue with you today, and we thank you warmly for your willingness to answer our questions after the end of your speech. It is very much in the spirit of our founder, Kurt Körber, in which we look for an open dialogue which helps supporting mutual understanding, to talk with one another, not about one another. This is the way Kurt Körber pointed it out again and again. The discussion will be hosted by Nora Müller, our Executive Director, International Affairs. Let me at this point thank the Polish Embassy and foremost Ambassador Jerzy Margański and the envoy Mr. Styczek for the excellent cooperation during the organization of this event. I would also like to cordially thank our German ambassador in Warsaw, Mr. Rolf Nickel. And I also, of course, thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, that you took the time to be here. And I'm very happy to welcome you all here today as our guests. Madam Prime Minister, welcome again to Berlin and to the Körber Foundation. The floor is now yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you very much for the invitation to this event. It is a great honor for me to be here. This is the very first official visit to Berlin, the one I'm making today. I have just concluded a very fruitful meeting with Madam Chancellor Merkel. We spoke about important issues that pertain to the whole of Europe. As has already been said, Europe faces many important and serious challenges, and it is still to carry out important discussions. It is also a good moment to say a few words about the good change that is taking place in Poland. The beautiful motto, "Let us talk to each other and not talk about one another," the motto, a quotation from the patron of your foundation, is a very just statement. A basis of all good relations and friendships is the conversation about important matters, the matters that are of our common interest. The European Union should embark upon such a discussion about important issues. The politicians and the member states should talk to each other and talk to one another as much as possible. Sometimes we seem to be lacking such talks, conversations, as certain solutions should be worked out by way of a consensus. This is part of the foundations of the European Union. Thus was the idea of the founding fathers of our community. We should listen to one another and respect our sovereignty, and we should help one another when we are in need of such help. So this is the idea that should bring us together, and in particular right now when Europe is facing such difficult challenges. Poland, the government of Poland, wants to be an active participant and a co-creator of the European policy. We have heard the opening speech, and what was mentioned were certain questions about the Constitutional Court or the public media reform. Those are matters internal to Poland, and those should be sovereign decisions of the Polish Parliament. I believe they should not take up the time of European politicians or the European public opinion, for that matter, because the concern about the Polish Constitutional Court and the time spent on those concerns might actually push other important problems away from our minds, be it the migration and refugee crisis, just to give one example. So we have heard a lot of questions from our foreign partners and friends about the state of democracy in Poland. Polish democracy is blooming. Poles are very attached to democracy. We have fought for a very long time to achieve it. We are a member of the European Union and of the North Atlantic Treaty. We consider it a great value, something that we would not want to be deprived of. And sometimes we have a feeling that someone is trying to divide us, and the European Union should not divide. It should become closer and closer and more coherent. But we are different nations with different history, different geopolitical conditions and circumstances, different social landscape. But what should bring us together is the future of Europe. We should all look into the future of the European Union. We should all draw conclusions from decisions which turned out to be mistakes. This is what the European citizens expect of us. And all the changes that are currently taking place in Poland are introduced because such is the will of the society. Poles supported our electoral program. The changes that we introduce, the laws that we draft, are not different from solutions functioning in other countries. What we use as models are systems and solutions in many member states. For example, the solutions introduced in the Polish public media are based on the French model. So there is no reason for us to dwell upon this subject. We are open. We would like the cooperation between Poland and the European Union as a whole and individual member states to be as good as possible, and we will do all we can for this cooperation to be as good as possible. This does not mean, however, that we are not critical of some decisions that have been taken at the European Union level, but it is the responsibility of all member states, including Poland, to work towards withdrawing from wrong decisions and to search for effective, good solutions, to search for solutions that would respect the sovereignty of all member states of the European Union. This is the road that Poland has embarked upon many years ago, even before 1989, when we were still not able to enjoy our freedom, or a freedom comparable to other EU countries, when we still had to fight for the right to take our own decisions, when we had to fight for the right to express our opinion. At that time, Poland and Polish citizens were the ones who led on the road to freedom, and we taught Europe that freedom and solidarity are important, integral European values that are drawn from our Christian roots. And it is our obligation to nurture and protect these values. Because if we allow for these values to be destroyed, the whole of Europe will undergo a very serious crisis, and we should not shy away from talking about the crisis of values. Europe has important values, and the problem is to be able, as has been said as a great Pole, the great promoter of freedom and solidarity, Pope John Paul II, do not fret. Do not be afraid to talk about difficult issues. And we want to convince Europe not to be afraid, because if we shy away from difficult problems, if we do not face up to challenges, we will not be able to resolve the problems. And we will make the situation even more serious instead of alleviating the difficulties. For Poland, the relations with our closest neighbor are very valuable and very important. Germany is a very important partner, a very important neighbor, a neighbor that we share more with than just the neighborship. The 25th anniversary of the Treaty of Good Neighborship is a symbol, a measurable symbol of our good relations, of the search for common topics and the search for a common path. Because while drawing conclusions from our past, we should be able to give Europe an example of how friendship should be built. We should also be able to teach Europe that such friendship can be a value in itself for our citizens and for our countries. What we have behind is a difficult and painful history, but we have also invested a lot of effort into our relations. The words "we forgive" and "we beg for forgiveness" were the foundation of the good relations and good neighborship between the two countries. Truth and understanding should be the basis for such relations. We should not be looking for things that divide us. Germany is the most important economic partner of Poland. It is a very important partner as regards security. Germany is also the country where our citizens have their families, their relatives, and at the same time, German citizens have family ties with Poland. These relations cannot and should never be spoiled by politics. These relations are the basis of the good climate. And it is important to maintain this climate in order to ascertain good future of our region, our countries, and the European Union. Our partnership and close cooperation within the European Union structure has a lot of potential for growth. It is important for us that this mutually satisfactory cooperation should be founded on mutual trust and understanding. And I would like to underline once again, Poland always was, is, and will be an active member of the European Union. And Poland will always work towards respecting the very idea that lies under the foundation of the European Union. It is the great value of our community, and it is a great value for individual member states, and in particular for the citizens of these countries. Poles appreciate how much Germany has contributed to the development of the European Union. However, we should be aware of the fact that the principle of equality should be the basis of further development of the European Union. We are a community of independent nations, nations that look for things that bring them together and ensure European solidarity. The freedom of citizens, the respect for individual rights, while remembering that only common efforts can bring us closer to the achievement of our objectives are very important for both myself and millions of our citizens. Those were the foundations of the United Europe. The founding fathers knew very well that apart from the differences and the diversity of Europe, what we have in common is the concern for the future of our continent. And in the moment of crisis, and these include the very serious refugee crisis or the problems connected with the potential Brexit, Europe should undertake all efforts in order not to allow for this great European idea to vanish. We should also ask ourselves, at which point did we make a mistake, And I would just like to say it once again. We should not shy away from difficult discussions, and we should be brave enough to look for new solutions when the solutions we've chosen turned out to be the wrong ones. We should ask ourselves whether the egoistic attitudes do not lead us to a dead-end street, a place from where there is no way out. What is very important is to make sure that we respect the sovereignty of individual nations. Only this will allow us to protect this great achievement, the European community. We should be able to go back to our roots, our values, and the principles of the architects of the unification of Europe. History should teach us that the respect, mutual trust, and goodwill is something that brings countries and nations together. The community should respect individual choices made by nations. We differ from one another. We have different traditions, different cultures, different customs. We built a community, a European Union, because we believe that there are certain values that are universal, and that is the freedom, the respect for one another. We want to achieve welfare for our citizens. This is why we want to achieve the situation in which the differences in terms of development are alleviated. We are aware of the fact that history did not treat us fairly. What we want to build is a united Europe of nation states. I am deeply convinced that Europe will learn from its current experience and will be even stronger once these problems are over. We should be able to listen to one another. Recent experience shows us that we are able to draw common conclusions in Europe. The very fact that we are currently working on resolving the migration crisis outside the borders of the European Union is the best proof of that. The very fact that we are able to invest into our common security is also the best proof. Our common efforts and determination to convince the United Kingdom not to leave our European family is also very valuable. And I would like to say that once these two crises are over, we will come out of these stronger and convinced that cooperation is the only way. And it is also important for this crisis to make us realize that we need to change European Union, to cut the red tape, to learn to understand one another. The spirit of the unification of Europe should not be locked in the drawers of the desks of bureaucrats. We need a breath of fresh air. We need to liven up our relations, but they should not focus only on the formalized laws and rituals. The problems we are living now can paradoxically renew our European relations, giving them new and better shape. Berlin is another important European capital that I'm visiting in this period of few weeks, and I would like to convince you that the changes that are taking place in Poland are positive. A lot of opinions are based on information that is not incomplete and sometimes misleading. So I believe it is a good moment for me to try to present a true picture of the tasks and objectives of my government. For the very first time since 1989, for the very first time since the first free elections after the fall of communism in Poland, one political party, Law and Justice, is enjoying sufficient support of Polish citizens in order to form a government without having to create a coalition. Poles have selected our political manifesto. They were not satisfied with what has been happening in Poland after the fall of communism. This is the program of good change, and not everyone is happy with this change. And this is the reality of politics and of democracy. There are certain groups and there are certain people who protest against it. And they have every right to do so, and it is only natural. But it is also the best proof that the condition of democracy in Poland is indeed very good. Everyone can express their views on every topic. It is very good that we talk about these things, but I am deeply convinced that all Polish citizens have but one objective, the good future of our country and our citizens. I would also like to believe that the recent debate in Strasbourg, the debate dedicated to Poland, was an expression of true concern and not of political manipulation. Because in any other situation, such manipulation would be dangerous to the future of the European Union, as the respect for democratic choices of our nations is something that brings together our countries that have suffered so much during the 20th century. Poland is a democratic country. It is the state of law, and it has been contributing to the European identity and democracy. Poland is the cradle of European democracy. I am saying this because this is something our citizens should hear from us. We are one of the pillars of the community. We are predictable. We are a dynamic country. We are a good place to invest in and to visit. We were able to resolve problems of new democracies, the corruption and instability of foreign exchange rates. However, we are still hearing some echo of stereotypes. We have been a member of the European community for more than a decade. We have opened our market and our borders in order for representatives of other countries to enjoy the benefits of the common market. Some people criticize the changes that are taking place in Poland, and this is why it is important for me to explain the true nature of these changes. The time immediately after the fall of communism was a very difficult period for Poland. We managed to build a country that is open and is inviting to the investors, and we managed to do so, but unfortunately not all Poles benefited from this transformation. The equality of change and opportunities for all citizens is a challenge for Poland, but not only for Poland, also for many other European countries. We have a concept. We know how to change this situation. We want the citizens of Poland to take part in this process that we embarked upon. We want to ensure equal opportunities for all citizens. Without social justice, we would not be able to build a truly democratic country, a country where the rule of law is prevalent. It is important for us, while we are building our mutual relations, to make sure that we remember about the necessity to build good relations with all our European partners. Poland will be a host of two very important events this year, events which shape our thinking about the future and the security. On one hand, there will be the Nato Summit in Warsaw. This is the venue where we'll discuss the security of Europe and the global security. We will talk about the necessity to strengthen the eastern flank of the treaty. In today's world, a world of many challenges and threats, a world which still suffers from war, no one can feel secure. And this is something we should talk about, and this is something we should never forget when we build our relations and when we strengthen our security. The NATO Summit is a very big event and is a very big challenge. We are very hopeful that it will be possible to ensure greater security of both Europe and Poland. The other event that we will host in Poland is the World Youth Days that will take place in Krakow. It is a very important event for young people from all over the world. They will spend weeks together. They will have an opportunity to meet, talk, to meet one another, to create friendships. Events such as this one are very important, and they can become a foundation of something great. This is an event of religious nature. Certainly, young Catholics will gather to pray together, but at the same time, it is an opportunity to build relations between countries, to overcome barriers, to look for contacts, and to seek unity in this very diverse world, and to seek mutual respect, regardless of where we come from, regardless of the language we speak, and regardless of our denomination. So we should all respect one another. We're all human. We're all responsible for the fate of our planet. We should all respect one another, and we should all try to understand one another. It is not easy, and we can always be tempted to try to dominate over others. But we should try to look for new, respectful relations. We should try to remove barriers. And while doing so, we have to be able to think about our future with certainty and with faith. The Polish political and economic transformation was founded on the presumption that the membership in the European Union on one hand and the membership in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization will be very important elements of the future of our country. This is why for Poland and for our society, the membership in the European Union is so important. This is also why we are very concerned about the future of the European Union. So the proposal to reflect upon the current situation and the proposal to introduce changes is important, because we need to reflect upon whether this organism is effective and efficient enough to serve well the citizens of Europe, instead of building a bureaucratic machine that exists just for its own sake. We have to try to answer these questions, and it is of utmost importance for us that the European Union, that is faced by major challenges in both internal and external terms, should be able to develop and grow. There are some member states, Poland is not one of them, that are still suffering very serious consequences of the economic crisis. These countries are receiving support. They are subject to assistance packages. This is a great challenge. This is something we need to talk about. The very high unemployment rate amongst the young people, social exclusion, all these are topics that for many years have been avoided and have been ignored. today they are becoming more and more serious. And if we do not face up to these challenges, we shall lose something that is of utmost value to European values. We should be looking for a platform for further development. As I have already mentioned, it is in the best interest of the European Union that the United Kingdom remains a member of our organization. This is a great challenge for all of us. I spoke to Prime Minister David Cameron during his recent visit to Poland, and we spoke about matters that are difficult, and we are aware of the fact that the current proposal that the United Kingdom has placed on the table is not fully acceptable. But on the other hand, the British citizens are to decide in the referendum about the future of the UK's membership in the European Union. So we should be able to search for a compromise. And the ability to search for compromise and for solutions that bring us together instead of dividing us is something that should be the basis of our operations within the European Union. Poland supports all activities that help to stabilize the situation in countries from where refugees escape arriving at the shores of the European Union. We have decided to assist Syria. We have joined the group of countries that provides financial support for this country. We want to ascertain humanitarian aid. We want to secure the external borders of the European Union. Today, together with Chancellor Merkel, we have agreed upon the initiative for Poland and Germany to agree upon a joint initiative to support one of the countries suffering from war. Such a humanitarian joint project is our obligation, and I believe that such a German-Polish project would be valuable. We want to offer assistance where it's most needed, and we also want to demonstrate that we are working together and walking hand by hand. Poland has been helping the citizens of Ukraine. This is the country which is also suffering from a war. Ukraine is our important partner and our immediate neighbor. The problems of Ukraine are sometimes not noticed from the level of the European Union, but they have a very practical dimension when seen from Poland. There is over 1 million Ukrainian citizens who have decided to move to Poland. They live and work here. They want to remain in Poland because this is where they feel secure. We are an open country. We are a country which for centuries has been a symbol of tolerance. We are the country which was an example for other European countries, an example for respect for others. And this is something we want to nurture and protect. Since the very beginning, Poland wanted to be a part of a strong European Union, a European Union that undertakes projects for the common benefits while respecting its diversity and the specificity of member states. And the consequences of the unstable political situation in Iraq, the war in Syria and problems in North Africa contributed to the growth of Islamic fundamentalism and in consequence to the emergence of the so-called Islamic State, which is a threat to the international peace and security and the security of our citizens. The recent attacks, in particular those in Paris, have made us all aware how serious this threat is. And they made us all aware that none of us can feel safe and secure, and it made all of us aware that we have to do all we can in order to ensure safety and security of our citizens. This is a great challenge and not an easy one for that matter, but I believe if we all work together, we shall be able to achieve this objective, and we shall be able to ensure the safety and security of the citizens of Europe. And as for the international activity of the European Union, what is most important is the current situation in Ukraine and the unlawful annexation of Crimea and the military activities in the eastern part of the country. This is why it should be a priority for the European Union to have a united stance, because this is the only thing that can lead us to the de-escalation of the conflict. This is why we are concerned about the support given by some countries to the Nord Stream 2 project. And this is in contradiction to the idea of diversification of sources of energy, and it would contribute to dependence of one Russian supplier of natural gas to Europe. This project cannot be reconciled with the current sanctions against Russia. And if the Nord Stream 2 is implemented, it may also have negative impact on the reform process in Ukraine, which would lead to further destabilization of the country. And it is certainly not in the interest of the European Union for the situation in Ukraine to be further destabilized. We have to remember, and we have to do all we can in order to support Ukraine, simply because the safety and security of Europe depends on whether its eastern borders are safe and secure. The eastern border of the European Union, Poland, is under direct threat arising from the situation in Ukraine. We want Ukraine to be a country that feels the support of the European Union. This is in the interest of us all. We want to develop good relations with all of our neighbors. We want these relations to be based on true partnership, based on mutual respect of one another's interests and values. It is very important, and this is also part of our relations with all neighbors, including these neighbors, the relations with which are particularly difficult. And here I mean Russia in particular. However, for the European Union countries, it is important to try to build good relations in Europe, to solve problems and to build peace. Poland and Germany have very similar posture in terms of security and safety. We want to promote international order based on principles that are respected by all. We want to liven the common foreign and security policy, common security and defense policy. We want to build transatlantic relations, and we want to ensure good neighborship. One of the important priorities for Poland is to strengthen the relations. The recent events, both to the east and south of our borders, have demonstrated a lack of coherent foreign and international policy of our community. It is very important to make sure that this policy is consistent, because only such policy would allow Europe to react to events and developments in our immediate neighborhood. Ladies and gentlemen, we should be able to find response to all difficult questions that are currently emerging. We should not be afraid to look for agreements. We should not be afraid to talk, and we should not be afraid of taking difficult and sometimes unpopular decisions. And only when we are open towards one another And as has been said in the beginning, only when we talk to one another and not about one another, we shall be able to achieve a success. We shall be able to build a strong European Union, a union of nation states, of strong sovereign countries, of countries that can be certain that together they are aiming at a common goal of building a secure Europe and of building a welfare of their citizens and the future for their countries. This is in the best interest of all of us Europeans. Thank you.
Madam Prime Minister, thank you so much. You cannot hear us yet. Perfect. Thank you so much, Madam Prime Minister, for these exciting 40 minutes. It's not working. Should be working now. Is it working? Yes, perfect. Again, thank you so much, Madam Prime Minister, for these exciting 40 minutes of your speech. We are a little bit late, so I'm going to suggest that I'm going to keep it short so that we have still enough time for an interaction with you, ladies and gentlemen. One question I would like to ask you, nevertheless, Madam Prime Minister, you said in your speech that Germany is an important neighbor for Poland, and I had to think about the speech that was held by your Minister of Foreign Affairs for 2 weeks. Germany was mentioned there as well, I think in the minute 45, after other partners in the V4 states, the Baltic states, Great Britain. And here in Germany, of course, we asked ourselves, what is this? Why so late? And these who know foreign policy of Poland were thinking maybe that it's maybe a renaissance of intermarium, which means that the most important partners for Poland are the countries between the big seas, so the Baltic Sea and the Black Sea, and not the countries that are west of Poland, so primarily Germany and France. So my question to you, Madam Prime Minister, do we have to, concerning the new Polish government, do we have to think about more intermarium than before? Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot imagine Germany without Poland and Poland without Germany. Strong Germany, strong Poland are basis of strong European Union. I also said it with a talk, in my talk with Chancellor Merkel. I think it might be a little bit confusing to talk about the length of the speech of minister. More important is what was said. And what was said was that Germany are a really important partner for us, and we want to deepen this partnership. And the fact that I am here today and that I'm meeting you, ladies and gentlemen, now, and that Minister Waszczykowski was here before, and also Minister Steinmeier visited Poland, that we are talking, that German politicians come to see us. This shows that our relations do not demand any special relations or any special rebuilding, because they are and remain very good. We have very many common economical interests. And of course, there are issues which we have to talk about. But that's the way it is. Always in families, among neighbors and friends, there are some cases which we share some opinions, and there are some where we have different opinions. But I think the most important value is the fact that Polish and German people know how to draw conclusions and know how to build good relations. But for Poland, in the changing geopolitical situation, also the fact that we are, as I already mentioned in my speech, direct neighbor right now of Ukraine, that behind our eastern border right now there are battles taking place, that our difficult partner is Russia currently. We also have to look for partners on different levels, and we have to rebuild these relations, which were in the recent years, which became worse in the recent years. It is important to us to have really good relations with all our neighbors and partners, and we will be consequently carrying it out and realizing it. But for me personally, also the fact that, as you, ladies and gentlemen, maybe know, I was born in Oświęcim, and that I have the chance every day to see how beautifully the relations between young people from Germany and Poland are being built, where there are very many mutual initiatives that are being carried out. For me personally, the relations between Germany and Poland are extremely important. Madam Prime Minister, before I give the voice to our audience, last year you introduced yourself. My name is Szydło, Beata Szydło, and of course we all thought about James Bond back then. My question, if you are James Bond, who is your M? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a question. I think most important thing right now is the fact that more and more women fulfill important roles in world politics. Today I met Chancellor of Germany, who has been a chancellor for so long that she is a great, big, well-known personality in the world politics, who is an example to follow. I also visited Oslo recently where I talked with Madam Prime Minister. So there are more and more women who are involved in politics, and I think this is very good because these are also European Union standards that we're all fighting for. But the way I formulated it back then in a joking way, it was supposed to show that politicians of Law and Justice Party are people who know how to have a distance to one another, but that we're also working hard on the ground, and that we want to build Poland that is a partner like any other for all other member states of the European Union. We want to follow the examples of the best ones, and I stress a lot the example that we should be fighting for Polish economics the way Germany is doing it on the world stage, that we should be fighting for the rights of Polish citizens and Polish companies. This is the way it works. Every wise government is fighting for the interest of its own country. And there are cases that we should be building and realizing despite political and geographical divisions, because the interest of our community demands it. Right now, it's, for example, the case of migrants, but there are also other interests that countries solve, taking under consideration their own conditions. This is the Poland we want, but this is also an expression of the fact that our citizens expect this from us. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your turn now. There are only 2 roles at the Körber Foundation. Please introduce yourself shortly before you ask. Second rule is you can talk about everything, but not longer than 2 minutes. I can see some hands raising. The young gentleman here at the front, please. Can I also ask the question in Polish, please? Is it possible? If you speak German, then I think it would be easier for the most of us, including myself. Okay. Prime Minister, you said in your speech that Europe has to face the big problems and not run away from them, as you nicely put it. I wanted to ask you, how does Poland face the question of refugees? And I don't mean the migrants, as you said, but I mean the refugees that are already here and that are looking for safe haven, safe home in Europe. You met Chancellor Merkel today, talked about the security plan. You introduced the security plan. What will happen in the next years? The problem of the refugees is happening now. What is the position of Poland? Will Poland face it, or will Poland run away from this problem? Thank you very much. This is a problem which it is not possible to solve it in a simple way, and we know that there are strong emotions attached to it. I mentioned in my speech that according to my way of seeing it, the decisions that have been taken on the European level were not effective. Today, of course, the discussion is taking place what to do with these people who already came, who already arrived in Europe. I also said in my speech that Poland is a country which does help people who need help, because today almost 1 million of Ukrainian citizens came to Poland, and the European Union is not supporting Poland in helping securing a safe home for these citizens. We do it because we know that they need help. They are our neighbors. We want to help those who require this help because I value the cooperation of the European Union and Turkey, and I think we should increase our support there so that we can face this challenge and deal with this problem, whether we will succeed. We also talked about it today with the Chancellor, that we have to strengthen, make tighter the borders, the outside borders, and fight with people who illegally transport people. These are all the problems that we have to deal with, and we are going to be very active here. But I also say every time and everywhere that although we are critical towards the decisions made by the previous government in Poland, and that we are open to look for other solutions, we are a stable government that knows that we have to obey some, that we have some responsibilities. We are not avoiding giving an answer on this issue, but we want to have foremost an influence on what decisions are being made, and we want to know what are the things that are being imposed on us in Poland, but also to other countries. What are the responsibilities we have? And my biggest concern is the fact I want Polish citizens to feel safe. Madam Prime Minister, head of protocol is becoming nervous. One last question, I suggest, from a gentleman here at the front. Klaus Stanke. Madam Prime Minister, you are already in Paris. Today you are in Berlin. And also you mentioned the Weimar Triangle. And also 25 years ago, the treaty of Polish-German neighborship was signed. Today is the anniversary. How is this concept fitting into your vision of the new Europe? As I already said, we want to have good relations with all of our neighbors, with all countries, member states of the European Union. We are building, of course, different allies, and we build different groups. When we are carrying out mutual projects or when we have the same aims, Poland has very good relations among the Visegrad V4 group, but we also have very good relations with Germany, with France, and I think that this future of building also this axis of our cooperation is extremely important. And I will say it's not only in the context of the interests of our respective countries, but also in the context of the future of security of the whole of Europe. We are connected by economical issues, but also political issues. And I think that always a success for each ally is one basic issue, a mutual respect of its partners. So taking upon decisions that are not directed at any of the members of a given group, but also a discussion about mutual aims. Today, Poland is in such a situation that we are looking for understanding also for our issues. First of all, the issue of security. I already mentioned this North Stream 2. We also want the European Union acknowledges the problems that Poland is facing today, because the security of all of us will only be possible to maintain if we maintain partnership and these relations between us. Winning one cases over others is not a good issue, but I will repeat again, for Poland, it is important to have good relations with all member states of the European Union. It is very important to us to have good relations with Germany, also with France. So I think that this future of building different levels of cooperation has really good perspectives. Ladies and gentlemen, Madam Prime Minister, this was a very exciting, though short exchange. We're looking forward for continuation of this conversation. We thank you very much for your visit here. We thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your active participation. Minister Steinmeier was recently in Warsaw, and he quoted Leszek Kołakowski and said, "We are not giving up a friendship because we have a different opinion on a broccoli. We have no broccoli today, but we have a little bit of wine and something to eat. We would like to invite you for a brief reception now." Thank you, Madam Prime Minister, again. Thank you so much.